We are live talking Atlanta Falcons on Proline TV, part of the Ourlads Football Network, as we dive into the offseason 2026. Starting first with the teams that failed for the postseason. The Falcons made a run, but a little too late. That precipitated the following moves, getting rid of their head coach, their GM, and hiring Matt Ryan as president, and the new head coach, Kevin Stefanski. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Falcons' top draft needs entering the offseason on offense, defense, and so forth. So naturally, when we do that, we're going to be bringing in Kevin Knight from the Falcoholic. Kevin, good to see you again. Thanks for doing this.
Yes. Unfortunately, the Falcons are back here again. You know, it seems like it was just yesterday we were talking about Raheem Morris getting hired, but yep, back here again with a new coach. Not quite a new GM, but that might be coming soon. We'll see. Yeah, ready to get into it. So,
all right. Well, let's start at the top. So I'm assuming it was not a surprise that both Fontenot and Morris were let go.
It wasn't. It shouldn't have been a surprise. I mean, there was definitely a lot of buzz coming from the national media that Blank had sort of had a change of heart and the winning streak had convinced him and all this, which is just nightmare fuel for Falcons fans. And that was all incorrect. That apparently Arthur Blank had made up his mind much earlier to move on, you know, after the Falcons were eliminated from the playoffs, which timeline makes sense to me. You know, I don't really care what you do for me after you've been eliminated from the playoffs before December. You know, that's not acceptable in any way. So, you know, Fontenot, I think, was more of an open question, but I think the Falcons saw this as an opportunity to make a clean change and bring in two new guys. And obviously they decided that they needed to change the whole direction of their organization with Matt Ryan as well. So it was a little bit more surprising than it should have been, I think. But at the end of the day, it was my expectation, and I would have been pretty against keeping Morris. And I think a lot of fans would have felt the same way.
How did they feel? How did you feel about Matt Ryan? And how much control did and does Matt Ryan have? Is he the one making the final decision on these moves, including the hiring of Kevin Stefanski?
It sounds like that is the case. You couldn't pick a guy, I think, more like well-liked by Falcons fans. I mean, there may be some Falcons fans that don't like Matt Ryan. I don't know how that's possible. I think he gave everything he could to the city and should have won this team a Super Bowl, if not for some, you know, unfortunate events in the Super Bowl. But I think Matt Ryan's very smart. I think he's cultivated a lot of relationships with a lot of smart football people since he's retired. And he's seen the ups and the downs. He's been around some good coaching staffs in Atlanta and some bad ones. So I think he knows what that looks like. I think he knows what he, as a former quarterback, wants in place. And I think that experience is really valuable. Now, will he be a good executive? Who knows? Doesn't have any executive experience. But this is something that teams have started to do, which is to maybe move away from the business people and start going for football people at the top. And I think it's kind of an admission by Arthur Blank that maybe he's not the best one to be making these decisions anymore. Maybe he needs someone else in the building to take over after how it's gone the last several times. And I think that's quite a turnaround for Blank. And I think it shows a lot of humility and a lot of understanding of his situation where, you know, he was going for these high character coaches, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Raheem Morris, I think, alongside Blank's, you know, very, very silly pursuit of Deshaun Watson, I think those were two sort of kind of major moments for Blank where he realized maybe his judgment for making the calls for this football team, maybe not where it needed to be, maybe needed to take a step back and put someone else in between him and the football team. You know, a lot of Falcons fans believe that it was Rich McKay that was just kind of greenlighting anything Blank wanted. And Rich McKay does not have a stellar reputation in Atlanta. Fans kind of blame him for everything. And who knows how much or how little he's been in control, but he's been moved out of football entirely. He's now taking over other Arthur Blank businesses. Matt Ryan comes in, and it seems like it's a new direction. And the line is that Matt Ryan is leading the head coach and GM search. Matt Ryan will make a recommendation to Blank. Blank will give it the approval, but I don't really see Blank saying absolutely not unless, you know, Ryan were to come up with someone that just totally out of left field that Blank was just like, I don't feel comfortable with this. But I think as long as it's someone within the realm of the reasonable, Blank's not going to stand in the way. So I think it is really Matt Ryan making these decisions at this point.
Well, that probably a good thing. Most of these owners, I mean, Jerry Jones might have something to say about it, but most of them, they didn't make their millions, or they did not had a lot of success running football teams. So better off letting football people run football teams. Okay, so Kevin Stefanski, and look, I know Stefanski doesn't have a glorious record, but he was coaching the Browns, and you have to give him a break there, especially because of the fact that there was a little bit of success. And I just wonder how things would have worked out for Stefanski and the Browns had Baker never got hurt. If he'd stayed healthy, he'd probably still be there. And maybe the Browns maybe they'd be coming off 2 or 3 straight playoff runs. It's quite possible because every NFL team, we all know how big a difference it makes to have a competent quarterback in control, and especially when you have that defense that they've had the last couple of seasons. But Stefanski was let go, and I thought he deserved an opportunity somewhere. So I'm glad as an outsider to see that he's got a job. How glad are you that he is the head coach of the Falcons?
Yeah, I had 2 candidates that I circled as wanting, and had Stefanski as my sort of 1A and Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks as my 1B, as 2 guys that I thought were both offensive minds, both respected names, but very different sort of style of coach. Whereas Stefanski, experienced head coach, definitely has a lot more on his resume, good and bad. Whereas Clint Kubiak would be a total wild card. You love what you've seen from the Seahawks offense, but this is a guy who's only been a play caller for 2 years with 2 different teams. And while I'm intrigued by that, and I think that's a very legitimate path to take, I think a lot of people overlook the fact that he's basically a total crapshoot, and overemphasize the fact that Stefanski has lost a lot of football in the last 2 years with the train wreck that has been the Cleveland Browns. And to me, as someone who's followed football for decades, I tend to look at the situation with the Browns and think it's the Browns. We've seen the Browns destroy almost every good thing they've ever acquired and basically be a losing franchise that makes terrible decisions. Stefanski has more or less gone out of his way to distance himself from the Deshaun Watson decision, and I think go so far as to say he was blindsided by the trade and was not a part of it and was shocked by it. I mean, the whole NFL was. I think that was basically the Browns owner just stepping in and being like, I want Deshaun. And I think that derailed their success. It was honestly a miracle that he made the playoffs with, I believe the second time he made the playoffs was with a collaboration of like 4 different starters, because Deshaun got hurt. Then they brought in Brissett, and then Flacco had to finish the season, and they still made the playoffs. Now the defense had a lot to do with that, but that offense was in the top half of the league somehow. And it, I think you look at what Stefanski has had to work with, the disastrous situation in Cleveland. And you can't separate the Browns from anything that happens. And, the Browns continue to be loyal to Andrew Berry, which to me signifies that he is exactly what Jimmy Haslam wants, which is a yes man that will okay whatever crazy thing he wants to do. I've had Browns fans come to me telling me that, Berry built this great roster for Stefanski, and Stefanski squandered it, which I think is ludicrous.
On what side of the ball?
Right. Like, I mean, the defense has been good. The defense
Yeah.
has been good, but they're like, oh, he got him all these great weapons. Like OBJ.
Really?
OBJ was washed when he got to Cleveland, guys. I don't know but Jarvis Landry had a good season or 2 there, maybe, but he was far past his prime. Amari Cooper, again, was at the tail end of his career, had a good year, but the cupboard's been bare there. The offensive line has gotten ravaged with injury the last 2 years and age as well. The whole team has kind of been falling apart. And, to me, it's like Stefanski's been playing on hard mode. This is like he's playing the NFL coaching carousel on all Madden difficulty, trying to coach the Browns. And I mean, the Browns only got him in the first place because they took a chance on a first-year offensive coordinator with not a lot of experience to his name. And obviously it worked out for them. 2 of their last 4 playoff appearances in the last 35 years were with Kevin Stefanski over the last 6. So, I think there's so much bad in Cleveland that it's kind of impossible to sort out who was exactly responsible. But if you look around the league at people's opinions of Kevin Stefanski, they don't seem to be negative. The negativity seems pointed at the Browns and the way they do things, and that's been consistent for decades now. So I think personally, Stefanski was probably happy to be walking away from the disaster that was the Cleveland Browns, and hopefully this will be the fresh start that he needs. And maybe he won't be. He certainly won't be the first coach to leave the Browns and have success if he were to do so. So. Yes. Almost identical record, by the way, to the man himself, Bill Belichick in Cleveland. So, whether I'm not saying he's going to be Bill Belichick, that would obviously be crazy, but I don't think there's any reason to put the Browns situation on him. And look around. I mean, if the Falcons didn't take him, the Titans were scrambling to get him into Nashville on Sunday. The Ravens were trying to move their interview up with him to early in the week. Mm-hmm. I'm sure the Bills were going to be hot on his trail as well. He was a very coveted coach. I think there seems to be disconnect between fans and the NFL, whereas the NFL seems to think Stefanski is one of the hottest candidates available. And fans look at the record the last 2 years and say, why would anybody want to coach who only won 8 games? I don't know. Ask the NFL. Why does the NFL want him?
Fans.
Maybe because they know what happens in Cleveland far more than the average fan does.
And that's what it is, especially nowadays on social media. Fans, they're a wild bunch. So
yep.
Okay, so what changes do you think be made with the offense with Stefanski now running things? Because we're going to start with the free agency as well, but not much that really, just taking a look at the roster and free agency, it's all about Pitts, isn't it? I mean, that's pretty much it. Yeah. What are they going to do with Kyle Pitts?
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine they're going to let him walk at this point coming off that season. So it's going to be the tag unless they agree to some sort of extension. My guess is they'll just do the tag, and it's a tight end tags. It's 13, 14 million, not a big deal. And let him see if he can replicate that. But we know Stefanski loves tight ends. Harold Fannin was the latest example, but David Njoku has been a consistent contributor there. He's always featured his tight end. So I can't imagine he'll let a 26-year-old Kyle Pitts coming off his second best season walk out the door. And some people might even say this was better than his rookie season because he had 5 touchdowns as opposed to 1 his rookie season. So, to me, I think Pitts is a no-brainer, and they will probably emphasize Pitts more in this offense.
Oh, he'll love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the one big thing to me is it's been heavily reported that Stefanski is going to get Bill Callahan to coach the offensive line, which Falcons have a good O-line coach in Dwayne Ledford.
Oh, he's the best. Good.
But
he's the cream of the crop.
Bill Callahan is like a Hall of Fame offensive line coach. So it's like, I can't, so if I was going to replace Dwayne Ledford, Callahan would be one of the only guys you would consider. But I think that's ultimately good for the Falcons because Dwayne Ledford, the one thing I had an issue with him was that he's a zone scheme guy through and through. Didn't want to run any power, didn't want to incorporate that into the offense. It's wide zone. They didn't run inside. They ran outside zone, and they ran it really well. But teams key on that, and it's become very difficult in the NFL to have success when you're an outside zone run team 75% of the time, which is what the Falcons are. So when they get Bill Callahan and Stefanski in here, we know they will now have a diverse mix of concepts here. They are going to incorporate a lot more power. They're going to incorporate inside running to this offense at a higher rate. And I think that's the only thing left to fully unlock Bijan Robinson is to deliver him a scheme that is not so predictable, deliver him a rushing attack that is diverse and allows him to use all of his talents, because I think Bijan is a very good gap scheme runner. On the occasions they were able to run duo, which occasionally they would do that, he looked great. And I think that diversity there is going to be really big for this offense. And really help keep the run game a lot more efficient and less predictable, especially in short yardage. And that was the one thing that was pretty much always consistent with Kevin Stefanski, was those run games were consistently good to league best under Stefanski, and you couldn't give him a better runner than Bijan Robinson. So I think we're going to see a lot of emphasis on the offensive line, which, the offensive line as it stands is fine. It's good.
Yeah.
But you've got Jake Matthews getting up there, and you've got Caleb McGarry coming off a serious injury. There's going to be, I think, significant investments on this offensive line. Maybe not necessarily this year because they don't have a first-round pick, but
sure.
I think that's one thing that Stefanski is probably going to carry over from Cleveland, is they're going to invest in this offensive line and make that the focal point.
Yeah, and definitely on the outside, like you said, but overall the offensive line still not bad. There's talent there to work with, and you got to make sure that you are prepared to move forward, because what is the situation with McGarry? Because he got the new contract. So it's just a matter of just he'll be back and just hopefully he'll be okay. And it was an early enough injury. Is there just hope that he's going to be ready to go when the season begins?
Yeah, I mean, it was a training camp injury, so I would think that he'll probably be back for OTAs and stuff like that. So, assuming everything's on track there, we should be happy with McGarry, and that's obviously going to be a big boost. Falcons, miraculously, they had no swing tackle and no McGarry the entire season. They made it work with Elijah Wilkinson, who was a converted guard, who has played tackle in the past. I think he was a college tackle, but he came in and started every game at right tackle as basically an emergency starter. And again, that's a hat tip to Dwayne Ledford for making that functional. Sure. I believe he was the most penalized player on the team, but it was functional. Hopefully Caleb McGarry back in there. Not going to be as big of an issue on the right side. But yeah, I mean, they're going to need to start investing in tackle. They've known this, and we'll see how that goes. But, I think the other spot to watch is center, where Ryan Newsel was a solid starter. That's basically what they paid for, paid $3 million for Newsel to come back. I can't imagine they'll sit on their hands there. I think the depth at center is non-existent. So that's one thing I think we'll definitely see is more center help come in. Not sure Newsel's getting replaced this year, but I think we'll definitely see a draft pick or at least some veteran center brought in to compete with Newsel.
Are any of the linemen right now, especially the ones that have been brought in the last year or two, are any of them more, when you looked at their scouting, was it, hey, we're bringing this guy in because he fits our zone concepts more? Is there any of that, or do they have, or most of these guys have the ability to play no matter what scheme the Falcons wind up switching to?
I think Newsel's the one that's probably the most zone scheme focused. But the other guys are all, doesn't matter. Caleb McGarry's a big tackle. Matthew Bergeron's a big guard. Lindstrom can do whatever he wants. Jake Matthews is definitely more of a zone scheme player, but he's played plenty of man concepts as well. And I don't really think there's going to be any issues here. I think, center is the one to watch, really.
Okay. All right. So let's now talk about the defensive side, because this is where all of the decisions, majority of the decisions are going to be made in free agency. A ton of guys, free agents. So, let's just start with the players that you believe that the Falcons need to try and bring back, and you believe most likely will.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be Jeff Ulbrich. Jeff Ulbrich signed an extension, so the defense and the defensive staff, I think, is going to stay the same in Atlanta for the most part, except for maybe some minor tweaking. I think it's a youth movement most places. I think the one guy they will try to bring back is probably Caden Ellis, just because he's such a linchpin for what they want to do. And he's also just 31, so I think he'll probably be back. But, Onyemata played a minor role. I was surprised they kept him at that price, honestly. Don't think he'll be back. Floyd, if he's willing to take a pay cut, going into age 34 season here, I think they like Floyd, and I think he's a good veteran presence, but he's probably going to have to half that salary to come back here in Atlanta. D. Alford will be back, I'm pretty sure, given that Billy Bowman, who was their nickel starter, he unfortunately, got injured late in the season. No timeline on his return yet. It might be that he misses the start of the season. So Alford, basically their top depth corner. He played really well in the slot. He played really well when he had to fill in outside. He'll be a priority to re-sign. He'll be back in the building. In terms of these other guys, though, I don't think they're going to go out of their way to re-sign Ebiketie unless he, is cheap. Troy Anderson didn't play. He was on I think he was on the PUP and just never came back. No one really knows what happened with Troy Anderson, but he can't stay healthy. That's abundantly clear. So I don't think anyone's going to really run out to sign him.
No.
I wouldn't mind throwing vet min to see if he can play this year. But, I think he's probably looking at the end of his NFL career if he can't get back on the field immediately. But yeah, I mean, Ronnie Harrison was solid depth linebacker guy. Josh Woods, solid depth linebacker. But, in terms of the major guys, I really think Ellis is the one they're going to circle, and along with D. Alford. Those are the two I think they're going to want to bring back.
And did Ebiketie have his best season? Did he look like he was finally starting to get things, or not really?
Ebiketie is kind of what he's always been, which is like a solid third, fourth edge.
Okay.
But he was completely outclassed by the rookies. And I thought Leonard Floyd outplayed him too. So, he would have been the fourth guy here. I don't think they're going to invest much in that. I think they have someone that they like that has kind of come on. Khalid Kareem ended up kind of even overtaking him because Kareem is just a better run defender. And they have a bunch of good pass rushers. So it's more, Khalid Kareem can give them a little bit more on base downs and rotate in. And he's going to be very, very affordable compared to Ebiketie, who Ebiketie might get interest on the free agency market. We'll see. But I think Ebiketie kind of is a solid starter, but he was outplayed by James Pierce, obviously, by Jalen Walker, by pretty much everyone. Not to say that he was bad, but the Falcons completely flipped their edge room on its head and ended up having one of the best in the NFL this year. So just not sure that they're going to make him a priority this time.
So because, a lot of people are going to say, well, you see, the Falcons don't have a first round draft pick. They just screwed themselves. You're, as a fan, even though there's no first round draft pick, comfortable with what they did now that they have themselves a couple of really good pass rushers.
Yeah, I mean, now that their draft pick that they gave up is more like in the mid-teens.
Yeah, than it was a couple months ago. Yeah,
that's a lot easier to swallow. But, I mean, I think James Pierce Jr. should be the defensive rookie of the year. I think it's kind of crazy that he's not even getting any recognition for having 10.5 sacks. I believe out of the last 7 players to have more than 10 sacks as a rookie, 4 of them won defensive rookie of the year. So, he seems completely forgotten because of the Falcons, but he was outstanding as a pass rusher. Still got ways to go as a run defender, but very, very good pass rusher. Far better than anyone could have expected. By far the best rookie pass rusher. And Jalen Walker, who was their regular first round pick, he had 5.5 sacks despite missing, I think, 4 games. Also was very good. And Walker obviously gives you versatility as well. The other side of that trade was that they got a 3rd round pick out of it back from the Rams. And they took Xavier Watts, who is also a defensive rookie of the year candidate, who led all rookies in interceptions. So, I think they're pretty happy with that.
Sure.
If they could, I don't think James Pierce Jr. would be making it into the teens given this season. So I think they took their 2026 pick in 2025, and I think they're pretty happy with it at this point.
Okay. All right. So are there any veterans on the team worth cutting and saving on the cap, which right now it's about league average, around 18 million, which means that, they, of course, they could do what they need to do to put a little bit more on the tank there in order to sign some free agents. What kind of money also do you think that the Falcons are going to have? What kind of an offseason do you think they can have along those lines as well?
Yeah, I think that the Falcons will be, obviously they need to move on from Cousins. They did an adjustment to his contract that he agreed to. He basically did a modified restructure where he sent his unguaranteed base salary this year to next year. But it's not a restructure because they didn't turn it into signing bonus. They just moved the money to next year. It's not guaranteed, and it won't guarantee until March 13th. Basically what this did was just free up all that money that he wasn't going to get anyway for the Falcons to spend now. So that's why the Falcons have cap space, because before they did that, they had no money. They were negative this year. So all that, basically he traded that money for an assurance that he's going to be released, because on March 13th, Kirk Cousins' contract, all that money becomes guaranteed. And it's like $70-something million.
Yeah.
So it's not going to happen. I know people are like, oh, well, Stefanski likes Cousins. Sure. But they'll cut him first and then re-sign him if they're going to do that. So, so that Kirk Cousins move will happen. And, they've basically realized all the savings from the cut already. They'll make him a post-June 1st cut, and then they'll deal with the rest of his signing bonus next year that they have to pay off. But he's going to be gone. Darnell Mooney, unfortunately, was not healthy all year, was an afterthought in the offense. His post-June 1st cut is going to save the team $12 million. So he's gone.
Okay.
And then I believe they're going to move on from a couple of smaller guys like Charlie Werner, the tight end. He's making almost $6 million. I just don't think he's anywhere near that value.
No.
They can get almost $5 million back from that cut. There might be a few smaller moves here. Clark Phillips is a guy that didn't really crack the rotation at all as a depth corner. They can save 3.6 for moving on from him. So, some of these smaller things I'm guessing they'll do. And more than likely they will extend Drake London before the start of the season too. And they can create as much or as little as they want. They can front load it and pay that money now, or they can backload that deal and save most of his $16 million fifth-year option. So, those are the probably the main moves that we're looking at there. I'm not sure they'll need to push any other, restructures or extensions or anything like that, but we'll see what they want to do. But yeah, at this point, with the Kirk Cousins money already here, and, obviously they can get another 12 from Darnell Mooney. They can get 5 from Werner, maybe another, 4 from Clark Phillips. They have plenty of money to do whatever they want to do this offseason.
Okay. So you just mentioned, unless they want to re-sign him, is that a possibility?
I mean,
Cousins could return.
I don't think so, because I think he wants to go somewhere where he can start, and I think there will be opportunities for him to do that.
Yeah, probably.
Here, he would have the opportunity to start maybe the first month, but the Falcons need to evaluate Penix. Like, one way or the other, they need to know after the season if Penix is who they want to go with. So I think the Falcons want someone more bridgy in case Penix isn't ready to start the season. We'll see if Jacoby Brissett hits the market. That one is obvious, given his history with Stefanski. Joe Flacco, would be a really cheap option to kind of just keep the lights on until Penix is back. But we'll see. But I think Cousins is kind of ready to move on. And I don't, there's no easy way to rework his contract. So they would have to release him and then re-sign him, which is not impossible.
Sure.
But I don't really think this is the situation he probably wants to go into. And the one thing to note is that with Cousins, there's offset language with his roster bonus that was guaranteed last year. So if he goes somewhere else and signs, the Falcons are paying him a $10 million roster bonus that's part of his dead money. The Falcons can get that $10 million back in terms of salary cap relief. So if he goes somewhere else and signs for, whatever, they could get all of that $10 million back if he signs for more than 10 or a part of it back. So the Falcons are also hoping probably that he signs elsewhere to get them even a little bit more cap relief.
And how did he play? So, cause there might be other fan bases of need of quarterback that might be listening to this. So because again, it looked like, it's interesting that, it looked like to me from the outside observer that once he got his feet wet, coming off an injury, once he kind of got into the groove of things, then he kind of looked a little bit okay. He looked like, the old Kirk Cousins, not the disaster that we saw before the injury. So, but still, to ask someone at his age with what recently happened to him health-wise to be a starting quarterback for a team, that's one thing. Asking him to survive an entire season, well, I don't know if that's possible, but you tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I let Cousins look like an average starting quarterback. I think that's probably better than half of what the teams have at this point. So
Yeah.
I thought he looked totally fine. He looked much healthier this year. He's still Kirk Cousins. He's still going to throw that ball and not take sacks. And sometimes he's going to throw picks doing that and frustrate the hell out of you. He doesn't have, he needs a clean pocket, and he needs to be able to set his feet to be able to get those deep throws off. If he can do that, he can still throw it deep pretty well. If he can't, the ball just dies on him. And that's just kind of, what happens when you lose some of that quick twitch muscle. But I thought Cousins was good. I mean, I thought he was fine. So I think Cousins also had something to do with the Falcons offense, like changing, because I think Cousins was like, we're not doing this, Zach Robinson, the former Falcons offensive coordinator. Like, we need to change some things. And they did. Once Cousins came in, they did slowly make changes to the offense that were good. Obviously too little too late, for Robinson. I don't think the Falcons are interested at all in his services, but I think Kirk did what you would want Kirk to do. He was an NFL starting caliber quarterback, and I think he's still got something there. You just have to keep him clean. If you want him to be able to push the ball downfield, you got to keep him clean. And he's still Kirk Cousins with all of Kirk Cousins' flaws and Kirk Cousins' positives. And the health is a question mark, but he's a year removed from the surgery, and I think he's okay now, for whatever that's worth. So yeah, I think he deserves a shot somewhere. I just don't think Atlanta and him are going to be on the same page with that. So
yeah, he actually looks like, you were just mentioning bridge. He actually does look like the perfect bridge guy that you draft a first rounder if you want, go ahead, but sign Kirk, let him start, especially if you're going to sign a guy in the draft. Because look, any other quarterback that gets drafted in this draft probably is not going to start. I mean, Mendoza's the only guy that's going to get in there, start from day one. That's it. Everybody else is going to have to take some time, unless they just are so good in training camp and surprises everybody. And who knows? That's possible. We've seen it before. But for the most part, I think, signing Kirk Cousins to a 1-year deal on a team that invests in a young quarterback would probably going to be a very smart move for a team then. Are there, before we get into the last and maybe the most important reason you're here, going over the team needs, so everybody can figure out what the Falcons are going to be looking to do to improve their team in free agency and the draft. Are there any players on the roster right now, any young players that the average fan doesn't realize is real close to stepping into either a starting role or a big enough role that position on the Falcons isn't as weak as one would believe?
I mean, it's probably the defensive line. You look at Brandon Dorlus, I think had quietly like the best pass rushing season from almost anyone on the interior in the NFL. He had 8.5 sacks, ended up getting hurt in the before the last game, but he could have pushed for double digits. Rukaroro is growing, and he's a little bit more inconsistent, but still good young player. He was always a project guy, but he definitely contributed a lot more towards the end of the season. Zach Harrison.
By the way, were you disappointed in hhis season? I know you were very excited about his season when we talked before the season began.
Yeah, I mean, it was about what you would expect. He didn't take like a huge step, but this is a guy that, just he's a ball of clay. And I think he needs another year with Nate Ollie, the Falcons D-line coach. But I think he's got the ceiling. I mean, you look at him, he looks like he's cut out of marble. He is that type of guy. So definitely someone the Falcons have big plans for. They had to play him out of position at nose tackle because they don't have a nose tackle. That's not his job. That is not what he's going to do. He's going to play defensive end, like 3-4 defensive end when they do those looks. And that's going to be a much better fit for him. But it wasn't great there. But Zach Harrison was their best interior player. He missed basically the second half of the season with an injury. But that trio of Rook Aroro, Brandon Dorlus, and Zach Harrison, no one really knows these guys, but they are all really good. And that's kind of one of the quiet things about why the Falcons were so much better pass rushing, is because they got a lot from their interior this year alongside their rookies on the outside. And they really just need a nose tackle to kind of put the cherry on
Okay.
top of that defense. And, that front is really, really dangerous and really good. And I think that's going to be the engine of this team going forward.
Okay. And then quickly, I'll throw some of the names just based on their draft status or just another reason that I might have. Braylon Trice.
Yeah, missed the whole season again this year. After missing all of last year, didn't play a single snap. So no idea. No idea whatsoever about him.
Okay. What about our boy Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, I mean he was interesting. He looked like a UDFA. The Falcons threw him out there sometimes when they shouldn't have. But I think they like him. He had a serious injury right at the end of the season, so we'll see what his timeline is. But the Falcons like him. I don't think they're gonna plan for him to have a major role, but I do think he's someone that they do like. And he'll probably be a camp competitor once again with a chance to make this roster.
Okay, let's see. Let's move over to offense. So Jack Nelson, see any time at all?
Didn't see him, which is good considering if we saw Jack Nelson, that would mean that their third tackle was also gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, other than I think Michael Gerald played above him. That was who the Falcons traded for right before the season for a late pick.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Jack Nelson, rookie tackle, 7th round pick. He's fighting for a swing tackle job. We'll see if he can get one next year.
Outside of Drake London, and you mentioned Mooney, not a lot of known names there at receiver. I mean, Sills has been around, but is there anyone there out of those 6 other receivers that you think is someone to watch?
No, not really.
Okay.
Sills is fine. I think Sills is a good Drake London backup, good depth guy, but they need a wide receiver 2 and a wide receiver 3 this offseason. That Darnell Mooney's injury and inconsistency he was so good last year. It's such a shame to see it this year, but broke his collarbone before the season started. Team hit it. He played through it, looked terrible. So, and now he's slated to make, I think, 18 million this year. And it's just, you can't pay that. So, the Falcons need a lot at wide receiver this year, and they're not alone in that search. So it's going to be tough.
All right, let's go to the needs. So is it an obvious number 1 need?
I mean, wide receiver probably is the top need. Where they're picking, it's going to be hard. I'm not really sure they're going to be able to get someone they want in the 2nd round at that spot. I think the guys that they would want are probably all going to go before then. But wide receiver, overall, they're going to have to sign someone is what it is. They're going to have to take that Darnell Mooney and give it to somebody else.
Okay.
And I think nose tackle is a big one. That's kind of the last piece on the defensive line they really need. And they needed it bad last year. They were very vulnerable to getting run on up the middle. They just didn't have one. It was really shocking to me that they didn't get one at any point. But they need a nose tackle. Another corner. I think Mike Hughes is fine, but he's not a plus there. So he can start for you and he'll be okay, but you're always going to be trying to upgrade that spot. So maybe that's one they target early in the draft, but linebacker depth, something they could use. I think if they're going to let Charlie Werner go, getting some more blocking tight ends. We know how much Stefanski loves his tight ends and using multiple tight ends. So
maybe it was
probably
Njoku come over.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I would be interesting. I mean, if they want to run 2 tight end sets with 2 strong tight ends, I mean, that would be a ton of money wrapped up in tight end. But I mean, if you can't get one of those big wide receiver free agents, I mean, maybe you spend it all on tight ends instead. Just run the tight end offense here. But I mean, center I think is another one. Offensive tackle. Those are 2 guys that I think the Falcons would certainly be interested in. Depending. But yeah, no 1st round pick. So I think that 2nd round spot, there's a lot of good nose tackles in this draft. That 2nd round pick could get you maybe the best one, if you're a Lee Hunter fan or Dominique Orange or any of those guys. But, I think if a receiver falls, they're going to be really tempted. And then, offensive line, just best offensive lineman available. We'll see if they can get that done too.
Okay. Yeah, and you can check out the Ourlads rankings. They have top 10s Now, this was from a month or two ago. They'll be updating them real soon, so you can check that out. And I'm sure we're going to have some conversations as well with some of their lead scouts because we're only 24 hours away, less than that, from the college football season ending, and a few weeks away before the NFL season ends. We really get into this. So as you can see here, they've got everything listed. And just taking a look quickly at the receivers that you were talking about. We know Tyson's going to go early. Lemon's going to go early. Tate will go early. Chris Brazel will go early. Anyone else?
Jeremy could be there. Jeremy could be there, maybe.
He could.
Yeah, Jeremy's a great. I mean, to me, Jeremy's a great wide receiver 2 option. He just kind of fits that mold. He kind of reminds me of like a Jacoby Myers, where it's like not like overly flashy in any part of his game, but just a good wide receiver. You need those guys. I think Casey Concepcion, if he does fall, that would be perfect for them.
I think he will, because he doesn't have the greatest hands. And I don't know if you're going to draft a guy in the first round that doesn't have good hands.
Yep. So Concepcion, if he makes it to the mid 40s, I think the Falcons would love that. They've got London, they've got Pitts, they've got size, they've got contested catch ability. Sills is a perfectly capable contested catch guy too. They need that dynamic playmaker.
Speed.
And I think they just don't have that and KC could definitely add that element to the offense that they just don't have right now.
Okay.
I mean, basically, Bijan Robinson is their dynamic slot receiver at this point. Like, they have no one else. Like, and Bijan's awesome, but it's like he can't do literally everything on the field for you. So maybe add one more of those guys.
Still, I mean, this is the thing about the Falcons when you look at them, that you realize that if this is just like I was saying about the quarterback spot, this is a team that if they had a top 10 quarterback would be one of the best offenses in the NFL, because you've got skill and dynamic players at every spot. Pitts, Robinson, London. And not a lot of teams have that. And you throw in a really good quarterback and a good offensive line, and you're going to score a ton of points. That's how close the Falcons are. And but again, I mean, unfortunately, 3/4 of the league are looking for quarterbacks to help them get to that next level. And the Falcons are no stranger to that. And they're looking for their next Matt Ryan still. But is there still hope? How do you feel? Has your trust waned at all on Michael Penix?
To me, it's the injury is the biggest problem here, because I thought Penix looked like a first-year player, like a guy that was starting his first 16 games. Unfortunately, I think the game he got hurt, he was putting together one of his best games. He had a tremendous, I think the best passer rating of his career in the first half, and it was looking awesome. Obviously, it's the third ACL tear, right? And it's the other knee now. So that, to me, is just, and this is going to be what every NFL front office is looking at now, is like, can you ever trust him now? With 2 surgically repaired knees, can you ever really trust him? And that's the calculus they'll have to figure out. The good news is, like, they've still got total team control for 2 years at a reasonable salary to evaluate, and if he makes it through those 2 years healthy, great, but he really does have to stay healthy now, because if he has any other injuries of note, they just won't be able to commit to him for that reason. And I think play-wise, Penix was fine. I think Zach Robinson did not design the offense the way it needed to be designed for him. I don't know what the issue was there, but they did not set this up for success on any level. It seemed like he just put training wheels on the scheme that he wanted to run for Penix, and I don't think that helped Penix, and I don't think that helped the offense. It just seemed like he just didn't trust him, and they never taught it. They never really got him to play under center, which is, like, I know he didn't play a lot of under center in college, but you got to get this guy prepared to play under center. Like, I don't know why that wasn't a point of emphasis in the offseason. Just like, hey, go get with Newsel, and the two of you, like, go down to Miami or whatever, Boca, go rent yourself a fancy hotel. Two of you get real close, and practice your snaps, practice under center snaps, 3 hours a day, and the team will pay for your vacation. It's not like Penix has played under center. He's a quarterback. I mean, it's not like he can't do it. I know some people are like, oh, his knees are so bad he can't. That is ridiculous. Before he tore his ACL, he was running boots. He was play action. He scored multiple rushing touchdowns, and some of them looked really good. His knees are fine. Okay. It's not like he's not arthritic and can't like bend over. That's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous statement. They didn't run under center because they didn't prepare him to run under center, or Zach Robinson didn't trust him to run under center. I don't know which is worse. You can't run an NFL offense without under center. And the fact that they didn't do it until Kirk came in, and I think Kirk demanded it. I have a lot of anger directed at Zach Robinson.
I could tell
for his handling of many things, including they fired the receivers coach 3 years into the season, and they just didn't have a receivers coach after that. And you could tell. So, I mean, we got to take a look at
the Bills Denver playoff game and how impactful the Bills running game was when Josh Allen went under center. So you don't have to be running shotgun all the time. Just there's a reason to do it. It's not just so simple. There are reasons to do that. So
there's nothing wrong with shotgun. The Falcons were obsessed with pistol, but like there's nothing inherently wrong with pistol either. It's just you need to have under center in your tool belt. Like it needs to be available to you. And for whatever reason, they just didn't run it. I think they ran it like 2% of the time. That's why it's not.
So, okay. So then would you be surprised, or would you be looking at them to maybe take a flyer in somewhere 4th roundish on a quarterback?
I mean, this probably isn't the class to do it. It's just very limited. I mean, I haven't really studied the mid to late round guys. I don't have an issue with that. I don't really see them doing that. I think they always have liked the idea of a sort of veteran to pair with Penix to help him, learn and grow. And I think in a lot of ways Kirk was good for that, but they're gonna need to get a bridge guy. And maybe, they do take like a late round flyer on somebody. I don't think that's out of the question, but yeah, to me, it's like, I mean, see if you can get Malik Willis. You and 10, 15 other teams are all gonna be trying to get Malik Willis. See if you can pull it off. And if you can't, see if the Cardinals let Jacoby Brissett go, get him. If not, you got other options. Worst case scenario, go get Joe Flacco. And it's not going to be sexy. It's not going to be great.
You're saying is it's all going to be, because you said this before. It's all going to be. This is just, and maybe some fans don't want to hear this, but it's all going to be about Penix, and it's going to be his team, and he's going to get a fair shot. And they're not going to try to bring anybody in here to get in his way. It's just going to, like you said, it's going to be the bridge guy or some emergency guy sitting and waiting. But this is all about finding if Penix is going to be a future quarterback.
Yeah, they need to know this year, and they're going to give him, I think, every opportunity to succeed or fail. And if he fails terribly, well, guess what? You'll probably be picking in the top 10 in what looks like a really stacked quarterback class. So that's good. And if he looks great, then great. We're all happy here. So, I think that's the calculus, and it's maybe not going to be, it may not be a fun season if he isn't playing very well, but if you don't play him, then you don't get the answer you need to make a decision next year, which next year is going to be the inflection point. And you either, commit to Penix and go forward feeling confident, or you move on. You don't even have to cut him. I mean, you probably keep him around for the rest of his contract. Maybe you trade him for, if he looks decent at all, maybe you could trade him for something later. But, it's going to be a bridge year with a bridge guy. Maybe Penix is ready for week 1. We don't know. One thing I will tell people, and it's like, this is never something you want to say, but he has been through multiple ACL recoveries. He's an expert at it at this point in some ways. So like it might be reasonable to think that his recovery timeline would be faster because he is very experienced with this particular rehab. He's done it multiple times. So to me, I wouldn't think that his timeline would be longer than expected. It could be shorter, but we're in that window where it's like, it could be training camp or it could be like late October, so we don't really know. But I think it's probably going to be closer to week 1 than the later end of that time frame. But either way, given that he's probably not going to be fully healthy and all this, you're going to need somebody in here that can take the reins if he's not ready to go. So,
okay. So, and look, Stefanski just got hired. So do you, and I would believe that if he's going to come in here, he's going to have everything to say about what's going on at quarterback. Have you already heard this? Do you already know this for sure? Or could Stefanski come in and maybe change that and decide that, well, I mean, Penix have to earn it. I might just bring someone in here to compete with him.
Yeah, I mean, I think what the Falcons, I believe, have already picked their general manager too. I mean, we'll see if that gets announced soon. Those president interviews that were not Matt Ryan, those were GM interviews. So, to me, it's probably going to be Ian Cunningham from the Bears. That's who it sounds like. But I believe the Falcons and this trio that they've assembled with Ryan, Stefanski, and maybe Cunningham. I know Josh Williams from the 49ers is the other guy they're interested in. I believe they're all kind of on the same page about whatever they want to do. I don't know what that is, but I think one of the things Matt Ryan emphasized was that this team lacked vision and clarity. And that was something that was obvious if you watched them last year and the last couple of years. They just seemed to kind of get guys. There didn't seem to be a cohesive plan or vision for this team. So I think that was a key component of this whole search and the guys that Ryan was interviewing. And I think Ryan's vision aligns with Stefanski's vision, aligns with Cunningham or Williams' vision. Yes. And whatever that is, I don't know yet, but I can't imagine Ryan is like eager to just throw Penix away. But I also think they're not going to just sit on their hands and just pray that Penix is going to be healthy and come back. So I think that the injury gives you cover to bring in a competitor without making it so adversarial. And, that's probably the direction they'll go. But, if they get Malik Willis and they pay Malik Willis $15 million or $20 million to get in the door, then
I don't think Malik Willis is going anywhere to be a backup. So
no, he's not. So, we'll see. Obviously, if they got Matt LaFleur, then I'd be like, yeah, they're probably getting Malik Willis, and they're going to say like, all right, Penix, show us what you got, but, they'll see, how it shakes out, but there will be some, decent bridge guy available for them. Don't know who it is yet, but, and then it'll be kind of up to Penix to come back healthy and take the reins. But I think he'll be given every opportunity to do so because they do want to make sure they can get a good evaluation of him.
Kevin, before I let you go, so you went over the needs. Were those needs, you said wide receiver was their top need. Did you throw in the rest? Pot can go anywhere, or did you feel that was the order?
The rest of them are like all just like sort of secondary needs. Okay. Yeah, like center, tackle, or
tight end, linebacker, cornerback, nose tackle.
Yeah,
any of them could be the second pick.
Yeah, like I would say like the second tier ones would probably be like the offensive line ones, corner and nose tackle, and then like tight end and linebacker depth is more like the tertiary needs. But I think those are all stuff that they need. Really, I think wide receiver help is mandatory. And nose tackle is pretty mandatory too. But that one, thankfully, is when you can get in the second round.
You can get late. You can go later.
Yeah. Sometimes, especially in this class. So okay. This is maybe the best nose tackle class I've ever seen. I mean, there's like 10 nose tackles that I'm like, yeah, I like that guy. That guy might be a day 2 pick. It's like, okay, so some of these guys are going to be day 3 picks then. So we'll see how that goes.
All right. And again, if you want to follow what is going on, since it's really early, we haven't even reached the Super Bowl yet. You can check out links in the description of this video. That's where you can find out how to follow Kevin throughout his podcast. And I'm assuming you're going to be, what are you doing? 3 a week?
Mostly typically 3 a week during the off season. So,
okay. Do you have is it all like on the same day?
We usually do a Tuesday episode with my co-host Trayshawn Diaz. That's Tuesday Takes. Then we have the Wednesday live shows, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then usually like a late week show, like approximately Friday. That's kind of just a topic du jour. I mean, it'll be a lot of free agency and draft and other stuff. But this week it'll be a mock draft. It'll be the first mock draft of the cycle. Pre-Senior Bowl teaser here. So
yeah, right. Hey, it happens fast. And that's what we want for us fan bases who've already been eliminated a long time ago. So check it out. And again, the live show every Wednesday at 8 o'clock. Link in the description for that. Kevin, appreciate it. And unless something major happens, we'll definitely look forward to talking to you again sometime, maybe no later than right after the draft to find out how the Falcons did this offseason. Great job as always. I know you got to run, so I'll let you go. I'll close up here. and I'll look to see you sometime soon.
Yes, thank you, Greg. It was a pleasure as always. So,
absolutely
looking forward to Dynasty again. I'm gonna make some moves this year probably. I got
ready for some trades.
Okay. Yeah, I get. Unfortunately, the whole Justin Fields situation did not work out. So I'm gonna have to maybe.
And he could be a Falcons quarterback.
Maybe I'm into that. Let's get it done.
Yeah, possible.
Then my dynasty team's looking up then if that happens.
Yeah, I don't know about that. All right, Kev.
Thanks, man. Thanks again. Have a good one.
All right, Kevin Knight, Falcoholic.com, The Falcoholic, Falcoholic Live. You might as well use that Falcoholic as much as possible since it's a really cool name. And that's our Atlanta Falcons coverage. We have 3 more interviews coming up this week. We're going to be talking about the Arizona Cardinals on Wednesday. The Detroit Lions are on Thursday. Actually, 4 more. We got the Lions, we got Arizona, we got the Giants on Wednesday. And we have Minnesota on Friday. Minnesota was supposed to be today, but we had to move our Minnesota talk with Adam Patrick to Friday. So that means we've got 1 today. We have 2 on Wednesday. That's going to be Giants at 4, Arizona at 8, and these are all live. Thursday is the Detroit Lions, and then Friday it's Minnesota. And I think they're both at 4. So we try to do 4 o'clock as often as possible. We try to do 4 o'clock, but we do have, since we have 2 on Wednesday, 1 will be at 8 o'clock being Jess Root with Arizona. Okay, so a lot to talk about there for sure. But our next one is the Giants at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. We'll talk about their new head coach, of course, John Harbaugh, and also about what the Giants are going to do this offseason with Ryan Dunleavy of the New York Post. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to have our golf coverage tonight or early tomorrow, but it is coming at some point. I'm hoping it's tonight. So that's a hope. And if it is tonight, maybe around 8 o'clock, something like that. So you could check that out if you're into golf. Otherwise, we'll be back again. Our next show outside of golf, back to football, will be Jim Feist at Dom DeMarco's in Las Vegas, Nevada, as they talk championship football. That's at 3 o'clock Eastern on Wednesday. Jim Feist, a couple of top handicappers as his guest as usual. And then the Playbook ATS podcast with Jim Feist, Mark Lawrence, myself, Andy Isco, and then we'll tackle the championship weekend in the NFL, and then we'll recap the big game tonight in college football. If you want to know what we thought about the game tonight, you can check out the Playbook ATS podcast from last Thursday. That's available, of course, in the library right here on ProLine TV. And don't forget, you can also check out our videos of the Ourlads Football Network at the Ourlads YouTube channel. And as I mentioned before, Dave Syvertson, we're trying to see if we can hook up with him. We've got a couple other interviews we're trying to hook up there over at Ourlads because I'd like to have him as soon as possible. Because I'm just like, Kevin's got it the right way of thinking. He's already got a draft going. That's what the fans want, and I get it. And it's hard because the scouts, they got a lot of work to do, and they have so much work to do that it's really impossible for them to do it the right way. If you're asking them to give you rankings right now, because now most professional scouts that are trying to put all this stuff together in their own boards, or some of the experts that do it outside of the teams, like what we do at Ourlads, they've got a lot of film to watch, and there's never-ending film. There's so many players, and they can't rank every. I mean, you know how many players there are? It's over 100, a couple of hundred, almost 300. So you got to rank them, and there's a lot of film, like I was saying before. So to do it right, it's hard to put an actual list up this soon in the offseason. That's why some of the rankings that they have over at Ourlads are a little bit dated. So you might see that, but that's okay. At some point, I know they're going to try to update them real soon. And that's why as soon as they do, we'll try to get Dave, at least Dave on. If not, we'll definitely hook up with somebody over there, and we'll be able to put something on here so we can get you as much information as possible, because I'm jonesing for the information just as much as you are. That's going to wrap it up here for our interview and our Atlanta Falcons coverage this offseason. We are 4 teams in: the Dallas Cowboys, the Tampa Bay Bucks, and the New Orleans Saints. And I didn't do it on purpose. That we've already got 3 teams from the NFC South, even though I am going to have to call my boy Rashad over with the Carolina Panthers and get him on as soon as possible so we can have the entire NFC South done and ready to go for the full offseason. But we will be doing that real soon. So thanks for tuning in here on Proline TV, and we'll see you again real soon.